There are some people who seem to have everything. The money, the influence, the admiration of millions. Xavier King was one of those people. At just 32 years old, he was the youngest media mogul in the world. His company, King Media, controlled television networks, streaming platforms, magazines, and digital news outlets across the globe. From the outside, his life looked perfect. But appearances can be deceiving. On a cold evening high above the city, Xavier stood inside his luxury penthouse staring out at the skyline. Behind him stood his fiancée and business partner, Vivica. She was beautiful, intelligent, and successful in her own right. Together, they were considered the ultimate power couple. Yet tonight, something was broken.
You were supposed to be at the gala. The shareholders were waiting.
I am not a trophy, Xavier, company to run.
It wasn't just a gala, it was important.
So is my life.
You were supposed to be at the gala, Xavier said without turning around. The shareholders were waiting. Vivica folded her arms. I am not a trophy, Xavier. I have my own company to run. Xavier let out a tired laugh. It wasn't just a gala, it was important. So is my life. The silence that followed felt heavier than the city beneath them.
What are you going to do? End our engagement?
Then Vivica smiled. Not warmly. Dangerously. What are you going to do? She asked. End our engagement. Xavier finally turned around. His eyes were exhausted. For a moment, Vivica thought he would back down. Instead, he looked toward the shadows of the room. Hamilton. A tall man stepped forward. King Media's chief operating officer. The man who knew how to turn every crisis into an opportunity.
Hamilton, draft the announcement.
What?
The engagement is over.
Effective immediately, sir?
Effective immediately.
Draft the announcement, Xavier said. Vivica's smile disappeared. What? The engagement is over. The room went silent. Even Hamilton looked surprised. Effective immediately, sir, he asked. Xavier nodded. Effective immediately. And just like that, one of the most famous engagements in the country came to an end. By morning, every news station was talking about it. Social media exploded. Speculation spread like wildfire. And for the first time in years, Xavier King found himself facing a problem he couldn't solve with money. The public had lost faith in him. King Media needed a new story. A better story. That was when Hamilton proposed an idea. A nationwide competition. A reality show unlike anything television had ever seen. Its name was simple. The Crown Jewel. The premise was even simpler. Xavier King would search for a partner, not just in love, but in leadership. Someone capable of helping him guide the future of his empire. Thousands applied. Meanwhile, across the city, none of that mattered to a young woman named Elara. While influencers live-streamed auditions and celebrities commented on the competition online, Elara was wiping down tables at a community center in a neighborhood called The Heights. She preferred real conversations to social media, real people to public opinion, and she certainly had no interest in dating a billionaire. "Did you hear the news?" asked Marcus Rhodes as he walked into the center. Marcus wasn't her biological father, but he was the closest thing she had. A respected community leader, he had spent decades helping families throughout the Heights. Elara smiled. "I try not to watch the news." Marcus chuckled. "Probably healthier that way." He handed her a tablet. On the screen was an advertisement for the Crown Jewel. Elara rolled her eyes.
Oh, absolutely not.
I didn't even say anything yet.
You didn't have to.
I'm serious, Elara.
Marcus, look at these women. Models. Influencers.
Entrepreneurs.
I work at a community center.
Exactly. What does that mean?
Oh, absolutely not. Marcus laughed. I didn't even say anything yet. You didn't have to. I'm serious, Elara. She shook her head. Marcus, look at these women. Models, influencers, entrepreneurs. I work at a community center. Exactly. She frowned. What does that mean? Marcus sat down. It means they're looking for someone impressive. And Xavier King doesn't need someone impressive. Marcus leaned forward. He needs someone honest. Elara looked away. She had no idea that one simple decision was about to change her life forever. The audition hall the next day looked exactly like what she expected. Bright lights, expensive clothes, phone cameras everywhere. Women rehearsed introductions while live streaming to their followers. Elara felt completely out of place. Then Hamilton appeared, clipboard in hand, cold eyes scanning every contestant. He stopped in front of her. Name: Elara. He frowned. No last name. Just Elara. No social media following. I prefer speaking to people face to face. Hamilton scribbled something, clearly unimpressed. Then he moved on. Elara almost left. Maybe she should have. But something told her to stay. Hours later, she found herself standing on a stage in front of Xavier King himself. Contestant after contestant performed. Singers, dancers, influencers, motivational speakers. Xavier looked bored, completely bored. Then Elara's name was called. Elara walked onto the stage. She didn't have a backing track. She didn't have a costume. She didn't have a performance prepared. She simply stood there. For the first time all day, Xavier King looked interested. What's your talent, Elara? Xavier asked. I listen, Elara replied. Xavier scoffed. That's not a talent, that's a basic human function. Then Elara said something nobody expected. Then why are you so lonely in a room full of people? The room instantly fell silent. From the wings of the stage, Hamilton narrowed his eyes. Meanwhile, Xavier leaned forward in his chair. Bold, he said. But Elara shook her head. It's not boldness, Mr. King. It's the truth. You're looking for a partner to fix your image, but you haven't asked what the people actually need from your company. And what do they need? Xavier asked. They need a reason to trust you again. For a long moment, Xavier simply stared at her. Then he made a decision that shocked everyone. Keep her, he said. Then he pointed toward the other contestants. Send the others home. That should have been the beginning of a fairy tale. Instead, it was the beginning of a war. That same night, Hamilton sat alone in his office studying a digital map of the city. One district in particular had his full attention. The Heights, the neighborhood where Elara and Marcus lived. An assistant stood nearby. The King Media Expansion Project requires the total demolition of the Heights, Hamilton said. The assistant hesitated. There are thousands of families there, sir. Marcus, the community leader, is already organizing a protest. Hamilton wasn't concerned. Then we move faster. I'll convince Xavier that these people are an economic drain. If we can frame it as a corporate necessity, he'll sign the order without looking at the fine print. The assistant looked uneasy. What about the girl, Elara? Hamilton's expression hardened. She's a distraction, a temporary whim of Xavier's. Then he looked back at the map. I'll deal with her. Weeks passed. As the competition continued, Xavier and Elara grew closer. One evening, they walked through the studio gardens, while cameras followed at a distance. "You've been here 3 weeks and you still haven't told me where you're from," Xavier said. Elara smiled slightly. "Does it matter?" "It does to me," Xavier answered. "You're the only person who doesn't treat me like a paycheck." Elara looked down for a moment. "I grew up with Marcus. He taught me that your name is only as good as the promises you keep. He sounds like a good man. He's the best man I know." Xavier stopped walking. Then he reached out and gently took her hand. "I think you're the one, Elara. I'm ending the show. I want you to be the face of this company." It should have been a perfect moment. But before Elara could respond, Hamilton appeared carrying a stack of documents. "Sir, sorry to interrupt this moment. I have the urban redevelopment contracts. We need your digital signature for the morning press release." "Not now, Hamilton," Xavier replied. But Hamilton persisted. "It's time sensitive, sir. If we don't sign now, the competitors will buy the land. It's a clean sweep of the underperforming districts." Xavier barely looked at the tablet. His attention was still on Elara. "If you say it's necessary, Hamilton." Then he signed. Hamilton smiled, because Xavier had just approved something he didn't understand. The next day, bulldozers lined the streets of the Heights. Residents gathered in fear. Police stood nearby. At the center of it all was Marcus Rhodes. Desperate, he called Elara. "Elara, you have to talk to him. The orders came from his office. They're destroying everything." At that very moment, Elara sat inside a dressing room preparing for the crown jewel finale. A diamond necklace was being placed around her neck. Looking into the mirror, she answered softly, "I can't, Marcus. If I speak up now, Hamilton will find a way to discredit me. I'll lose my position." Marcus' voice became firm. "Do you think you were chosen for this just to wear diamonds? Maybe you were put in this palace for such a time as this." Elara closed her eyes. Marcus continued, "If you stay silent, help will come from somewhere else, but you will have failed your people." Suddenly, the diamonds around her neck no longer felt beautiful. They felt like chains. Her hands trembled. Then she made her choice. "I'll do it." That night, millions of people tuned in to watch the crown jewel finale. Cameras filled the grand ballroom. Xavier stood proudly at the podium. Hamilton waited off stage, looking completely confident. Everything was going according to plan. "Tonight we enter a new era of King Media," Xavier announced. "I'd like to introduce the woman who will lead it with me, Elara." The audience applauded. Then Elara stepped onto the stage. Immediately, the crowd began whispering. Something was different. She wasn't wearing the diamonds. She wasn't wearing the designer gown. Instead, she wore the same simple linen dress she had worn on the day she auditioned. Xavier looked confused. "Elara, where is the dress?" Elara looked directly at him. "I can't wear the brand of a man who destroys my home." The ballroom fell silent. Xavier's face paled. "What are you talking about?" "The contract you signed yesterday," Elara said. "It wasn't an economic expansion. It was an eviction notice for 10,000 people, my family." Hamilton immediately rushed onto the stage. "She's confused, Xavier. The stress of the show." "I'm not confused, Hamilton," Elara interrupted. "I saw the map in your office. You lied to Xavier. You told him the land was vacant." Then Elara connected her phone to the giant ballroom screens. Photos appeared. The community center. Families. Children. Marcus. Real people. Real lives. This is the economic drain Hamilton told you about. Xavier stared at the images. Then he slowly turned toward Hamilton. "Hamilton, is this true?" Hamilton finally snapped. It was a business decision, Xavier, for the good of the company. Then he pointed toward the screen. These people are nothing. The audience gasped. Xavier's expression turned cold. They are her people. Hamilton immediately realized he had lost. Xavier faced the cameras. Then he made his decision. The contract is void. Hamilton froze. You can't do that, the legal fees. You're fired, Hamilton. Xavier pointed toward the exit. Get off my stage. Security moved in. And as Hamilton was escorted away, the crowd erupted into applause. Not for a television show, but for the truth. Later, back in the Heights, the bulldozers were gone. Construction crews had taken their place. New signs were being installed. The MARCUS Center, FUNDEDBY King Media. For the first time in a long time, there were no cameras, no reporters, no audience, just people rebuilding what almost disappeared. Xavier stood beside Elara on the sidewalk. It's going to take a long time to fix what I almost broke. Elara smiled. We have time. Xavier laughed softly. Marcus told me I should listen to you more often. He's a very smart man. Just then Marcus walked over and shook Xavier's hand. Then he turned toward Elara. You did well, Elara. Elara shook her head. I just told the truth, Marcus. Marcus smiled. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do in a palace. As the sun began to set over the heights, Xavier placed an arm around Elara. Together, they looked out over the neighborhood. The community had been saved. Not by wealth, not by power, but by someone willing to speak the truth when it mattered most. And sometimes, that's the greatest courage of all. Throughout the journey, Elara had been carried by more than her own courage. She had been strengthened by the people who believed in her, guided by the wisdom of Marcus Rhodes, supported by a community worth fighting for. And above all, she had been helped by God. When fear told her to stay silent, God gave her courage. When uncertainty clouded her path, God gave her wisdom. When the moment finally came to stand for the truth, God gave her the strength to do what was right. And in the end, that wisdom changed more than one man's heart. It saved an entire community. Because sometimes the most powerful person in the room isn't the one holding the microphone. It's the one brave enough to speak the truth. This story is inspired by the book of Esther in the Bible. Follow Stories from Light for more stories that are true for real people that lived before us and are still applicable to our lives even today. Please like, subscribe, and share the story so that more people can be encouraged by them. See you in our next story.